If you had told 16-year-old me that the man who wrote me love letters from across the sea would one day try to strangle me in my sleep, I would have sworn you were mistaken. After all, wasn't he my protector? My confidant? The man who promised me forever? But monsters don't appear wearing masks. They arrive with flowers in their hands and soft words on their lips. By the time you realize the truth, the door has already closed behind you, and the lock is on the outside. This is my story. A story of love that became a prison, of hope that nearly killed me, and of the night when I finally saw the truth staring at me through the eyes of a man who said he loved me. I was 16, still in Hong Kong, balancing between adolescence and adulthood. My world was filled with textbooks, family expectations, and dreams too fragile to share aloud. Then there was him. He was older, living in Australia, with a life that seemed larger and more exciting than mine. We didn't meet in person at first. We met through letters. Each envelope was a lifeline across the sea. I'd run my finger along the creases, hold the paper to my face, inhale the faint scent of ink and air travel. Inside were words that painted a future I didn't know I wanted until he offered it. You make the world feel less lonely. One day, I'll walk with you along the endless Australian beaches. I'd read those lines again and again, memorizing them until they felt etched into my skin. My heart was young, eager, hungry for love. He fed it with every careful sentence. When the phone calls began, it felt even more real. His voice was low, steady, reassuring. He asked about my studies, my family, my secret hopes. He told me I was special. That one word, special, lodged itself deep inside me. For 5 years, we built something invisible yet powerful. A bridge of words, promises, and yearning. By the time I was 21, when I got the chance to study in Australia, I believed destiny had been leading me toward him all along. Landing in Australia felt like stepping into another world. The air was salter, brighter somehow, and every street felt like it carried a secret. I was nervous. 21, far from family, clutching my suitcase and hopes as though they were fragile glass. And then there was him. He met me at the airport with flowers. White lilies, my favorite. "Welcome home," he said, as though I already belonged to him. The word home lingered in my chest like a promise. Our first date was at a small cafe by the beach. The windows overlooked rolling waves, sunlight glittering on the water. I remember how he leaned across the table, asking about every little thing, my classes, my favorite foods, my fears. His eyes didn't leave mine, and I felt seen in a way I hadn't before. Later, he took me on long drives along the coast. He'd point to cliffs, to beaches, to towns, telling me stories as though he were handing me pieces of his world. "This is yours too now," he'd whisper, and I believed him. He had a way of making me feel safe in the unfamiliar. When I stumbled over English phrases, he laughed softly, never cruelly, at least not then. When I felt lonely, he'd show up with chocolates or handwritten notes tucked into my books. He was attentive, thoughtful. To me, new and fragile in a foreign land, he felt like an anchor. I didn't realize then that anchors can weigh you down just as much as they steady you. The first outburst seemed like nothing at the time. A misunderstanding. We were supposed to meet at Central Station. I'd gone to the wrong entrance. My phone had no credit, and by the time I found him, his face was tight with rage. "Where the hell were you?" His voice thundered across the crowded platform. Commuters turned to stare. My cheeks burned. I thought you meant the George Street exit," I stammered, clutching my bag like a shield. His eyes blazed. "Do you know what could have happened to you? You're a stranger here. Anyone could have hurt you." Tears welled in my eyes. I wanted to defend myself, but my voice caught in my throat. Then, as quickly as the storm had come, it passed. His face softened, his voice trembled. "I only yelled because I love you. I worry about you. I couldn't forgive myself if something happened." He pulled me into his arms. People still stared, but now they saw a couple reconciling. I buried my face in his shirt, convincing myself this was love. The second incident was worse. We were at his apartment, arguing over something trivial, I can't even remember what sparked it. His voice grew louder, sharper. I shrank back, trying to calm him. Then, suddenly, his hand grabbed an ashtray from the table. It flew across the room, striking my knee. Pain shot up my leg. Blood welled. I gasped, clutching at the cut. He froze, his anger evaporating into horror. "Oh my God, I didn't mean, are you okay?" "At the hospital," I lied. "I fell off my bike." The words tasted like ash, but I couldn't bear to expose him. Later, he wept into his hands. I was stressed. "Work is killing me." "I'm so sorry." He kissed my bandaged knee. "I'll never hurt you again." I believed him.
Because I wanted to.
Because I was already in too deep. But cracks had appeared in the mirror, and I ignored them, thinking love would make them disappear. After that, fear lingered like a shadow. Sometimes I'd flinch at sudden movements. Sometimes I'd lie awake wondering what would happen if he lost control again. Eventually, overwhelmed, I returned to Hong Kong. Back to my family, back to familiarity. For months, I tried to rebuild, to forget. But forgetting is harder when the phone keeps ringing. He called endlessly. Letters arrived, his handwriting frantic. "I can't live without you. Please come back.
Please marry me.
I'll change. I'll prove to you that I'm the man you fell in love with." At first, I resisted. I told him I needed space, time. But his words wore me down. He spoke of futures we'd dreamed of beaches and children, of growing old together. Loneliness has a way of weakening resolve. Slowly, his voice became my comfort again. When he proposed, I said yes. Against the quiet protests of my heart, I said yes. The wedding was modest. I wore a simple dress, my hands trembling with nervous hope. He looked at me with eyes full of devotion. In that moment, I convinced myself that the past was behind us, that marriage would change everything. But vows do not erase violence. They only bind you closer to it. Married life began with subtle changes. At first, they were almost invisible, tiny rules that seemed reasonable. "Text me when you get to class." "Don't go out with those girls. They don't understand you like I do." "Why do you need to talk to your family so often?" "I'm your family now." Each request felt small. Each one seemed rooted in love. But together, they built walls around me. Soon, I was isolated. My world narrowed until it was only him. He came home from work tense, snapping at me for the smallest things. If dinner wasn't ready, his voice cut like a whip. If I spoke too loudly, he glared. If I was quiet, he accused me of sulking. The air in our home grew heavy, thick with tension. I tiptoed around him, careful not to trigger his anger. One night, when I threatened to leave after a particularly cruel fight, he stared at me with hollow eyes. "If you ever leave me," he whispered, "I'll kill myself, and it will be your fault." The words rooted themselves deep in my soul. I stayed, out of guilt, out of fear, out of the twisted belief that my love could save him. But the more I stayed, the more I lost myself. My confidence eroded. My laughter disappeared. I began to believe I was nothing without him. When I gave birth to our child, I thought, surely now things would soften. Surely fatherhood would awaken something gentle in him. But instead, he looked at me with disdain. "You're useless now. No use sexually. I don't love you." The words hollowed me out, but I clung to hope, desperate for scraps of affection. Until the night, he placed his hands on my throat as I slept. When I gave birth to our child, I thought surely things would change. Surely fatherhood would bring out the softness I once thought I saw in him. But I was wrong. "You're useless now," he sneered one night. "No use sexually. I don't love you anymore." The words burned, but worse was yet to come. One night, as I slept, I felt pressure on my throat. At first it was a dream, dark shapes pressing in. Then it was real, his hands tightening, his face above me, eyes cold, lips pressed in fury. I couldn't breathe. My screams tore through the night. And then footsteps. My brother, who had been staying with us, burst into the room. He ripped my husband away from me, saving my life. I lay there gasping, throat bruised, heart pounding with terror. It was the first time I knew without doubt. If I stayed, I would die. I didn't call the police. Fear strangled me as tightly as his hands had. What if they didn't believe me? What if he found out I reported him? Instead, the next morning, trembling, I called the local community center. "I need a marriage counselor," I whispered, shame dripping from every word. The woman's voice was steady. "You don't need a counselor. You need to come in. Your life is in danger." Those words cut through my denial. For the first time, someone said what I hadn't dared admit. The center arranged a refuge, a hidden place where women like me could disappear. With my children in my arms, I left. No one knew where we were. Not friends, not acquaintances, not him. Still, he searched. He called people I knew, demanding answers. But the refuge was untraceable. For the first time in years, I felt a sliver of safety. Safety doesn't erase fear. Even in the refuge, his shadow lingered. Every time a car slowed near the building, I froze. Every knock on the door made my heart race. But there, surrounded by women with stories like mine, I began to heal. We were sisters in survival. Each carried scars, some visible, some hidden, but all carried resilience. Counselors helped me untangle the lies I'd believed. They reminded me I wasn't useless. I wasn't powerless. I wasn't alone. My children played in peace, their laughter no longer cut short by shouting. Watching them gave me strength. But recovery is not a straight path. Nights were long, haunted by nightmares of his hands around my throat. His words echoed in my head. "You're nothing without me. You'll never survive." And yet, every sunrise proved him wrong. Looking back, I see the pattern clearly now. The charm, the control, the apologies, the cycle. But at the time, love disguised the red flags. Hope muffled the warnings. Fear chained me in place. Now, I share my story because silence is the abuser's greatest ally. If you're listening, if you recognize yourself in my words, know this. Love should not make you afraid. Devotion should not bruise your skin or steal your voice. Escape is possible. Help exists. And survival is not just living. It is reclaiming the parts of yourself you thought were lost forever. I once thought my life would end in silence, under the weight of hands that claimed to love me. But instead, it began again. In the voices of those who helped me, in the laughter of my children, in the courage I found when I walked into the unknown. Monsters can hide in the language of love, but so can freedom.